So it looks like Project Motor Racing is gonna be this year's big sim racing release. It's been hyped for months, it promises an in-depth single-player experience, it woos its customers with all kinds of GT legends, and it reignites a nostalgic spark for mid-2000s, well, motor racing. Yet, as intriguing as it sounds, I'm not gonna give this game a closer look. And no, it's not a case where I tested a preview version of the game and found the physics to be abysmal. Instead, the problem lies not out on track, but in the proverbial pit lane. PMR is developed under the umbrella of Giant Software, led by longtime sim racing producer Ian Bell and his Straight 4 Studios. Some of you might be familiar with his work, including Need for Speed Shift or the GTR games. Yet, he is not the focal point of my video, as divisive of a character as he happens to be. For PMR, he decided to hire a certain Austin Ogonoski as his game design director. He's been around the block for a long time, talking about the world of sim racing on many platforms with varying levels of success. He's known to be a harsh critic of iRacing, a dirt racer somewhere up in Canada, and also a bit of a bigot. Joshua Morgan posted an article discussing the life and times of Mr. Ogonoski in the world of sim racing, which you can find in the description below. Some of you might only know Austin through a few YouTube videos ripping in on some stories in the world of sim racing, but might have never seen anything too questionable.
Alright, so it's 2 a.m. and I have found a bug in AMS2 that is interesting.
Shall we give you a quick rundown, let's say? Highlights of his internet conduct include checks notes, running questionable paint schemes on iRacing and NASCAR Racing 2003 with iconography such as
Mittler did nothing wrong,
or a livery promoting a website running off of pedocriminal material. We could include Austin participating in Gamergate, an anti-feminist hate mob often disguised as an attempt at critiquing ethics in games journalism. And by critiquing ethics in games journalism, I mean sending people death threats, trying to get people to kill themselves, organizing widespread harassment campaigns for months and months, or serving as an effective recruiting tool for what we now know as the alt-right. Ogonoski himself described feminism as
a bunch of women with various mental illnesses thinking that all men on the planet are conspiring to oppress them,
and said,
feminism is a synonym for nutjob.
One paragraph later. Unsurprisingly, some reporting on PRC, his former sim racing website, consisted of complaining about SJWs, or just women in general. A group, might I add, that Austin, according to his own writing, didn't hold in particularly high regard.
Both shots represent the stereotypical victory lane scene. Sweaty driver with a trophy, beer, and a pretty girl. This is basically what you aim for as a race car driver. The moment you get into any worthwhile series, you want to win the race and fuck the trophy girl.
Speak for yourself, motherfucker!
In all fairness, Austin did admit that the idea of grid girls might be a bit out of touch in the mid-2010s, though his reasoning seems to boil down to the awkwardness of such procedures taking place with a female driver. As for the woke agenda, TM, oh no, Turn 10 have been bitten by the SJW bug for not wanting an ableist car online, or you know, a bus making fun of the sexual abuse of children. Darn you, SJW cucks! He regularly shared transphobic material on his Facebook page, painting a picture of trans identity as a mental illness in need of cure, or promoting racist conspiracy theories in light of the murder of George Floyd in 2020. In fact, when NASCAR driver Kyle Larson was fired from his team in 2020 for using a racial slur, on stream, only to be hired by Rick Hendrick and win a cup championship the year after. He framed this absurd cavalcade as the conclusion of a Kyle Larson revenge tour, mocking the rampant racism present in the world of stock car motorsport. These are the avatars of NASCAR fans on Reddit upset at Mad D Benedetto. Poofs, mask cucks, and cross-dressers. This is NASCAR's new target audience, and if you're against this in any way, you're a bigot. I mean, he's not wrong. He is a bigot. Or what about his YouTube adventures? Some of these discuss sim racing, others discuss addiction, or, whatever this is, and others declare NASCAR fans as creepy and insane. Said group of supposed nut jobs, to use his own words, includes both people sexualizing minors on Reddit and just queer people. Yeah, putting those two in a suspiciously similar category definitely doesn't reek of right-wing stereotypes against queer individuals. Oh no, how awful of somebody to, just exist. Hide your children! Or chestnuts, like complaining about Facebook ads featuring people of color for 3 minutes.
I'm under the impression that these companies are paying huge money to just pollute your Facebook feed with random activist causes in the hopes that society at large turns around and accepts obese black women as the new standard of beauty, or third-rate women's sports as somehow on par with other professional sports, but no, bro, I really don't care about them. Please get them out of my feed.
And depressingly enough, we're just scraping what is publicly available in terms of statements and sentiments. God knows what might have been uttered and shared over the years in personal spaces. Listening through the grapevine, it's not particularly pleasant. None of this has ever been apologized for. These aren't accidents. We're not talking about singular incidents. This type of toxic behavior has been apparent for about a decade. Some of you might find this shocking, others might not care at all, and then there might be some who think, okay, this is not cool, Alexis, I get it, but is it really worth not buying a game for? It's just one guy. He's probably just trolling. Let bygones be bygones. Well, such an attitude is difficult to hold in the year of our Lord 2025 when takes such as this, or this, or this serve as the basis for consistent discrimination against people of color, trans people, or other marginalized groups. It's easy for us to push this away and assume that it doesn't matter, but I suppose going out into the world and touching grass would imply that that's simply not the case. What's more befuddling is that one of the targets Austin picked in his early days on PRC was Ian Bell, the guy behind Project Motor Racing. His current boss, effectively. In fact, PRC didn't come to an end through lawsuits or another day of posting shithousery. Instead, it seems to have been a case where Austin's new job at Slightly Mad Studios, then led by Ian Bell, was in conflict with his racing game website. Turns out, Mr. Ian of the Bell helped Austin in his steps into real-life racing over in Canada. So the grudge was settled to the point where Ian appeared on Austin's YouTube channel. But, you know, maybe he's not aware of any of this. Maybe he just knew that Austin was a bit of a shitposter back in the day and just didn't think any further about it. That's surely what happened, right? Right?
Well, ideologies, that's
you were
lawsuits.
making statements online
Oh,
about
yeah.
trans people. You were making statements online about trans people that were negative.
And see,
You
they
were
never
making
came to me
statements.
specifically about that. Like, that was never brought up in any discussion I had with them.
Yeah, it wasn't one specific, but you did actually mention it. So you made negatives about trans people. You made negatives about gay people. Oh, I have a lot of friends who are gay. I was gay when I was younger, and you know, that's the issue. That's the issue, Austin. It's not. I don't judge you, man. Look, I don't give a what your politics are. I care how good you are at your job.
So what's very backwards is, why wouldn't big corporations want that diversity of opinion to make even more money?
Because you're not allowed to be right-wing these days. That's the long
all
and
it
short
is.
of it. That's the long and short of it, man. Now, it just transpires. It fits with my personal ethos because I'm very left-wing, but it doesn't fit with yours. Hard luck. You've fallen into modern society whereby being right-wing is a horrible thing. And you're not actually far right. I mean, look, to be honest with you, I think the far left have become more Nazi than the far right.
Well, that's the second time you've been
they're-
canceled this stream if the drug talk didn't do it.
Well, they can do whatever they want, and I don't care, and I never did. I just tell the truth as I see it. It doesn't mean that it is the truth. It means it's my truth, and if I can't have my truth, then that's Nazism.
Oh dear. Okay, so we've established that Ogonoski is a dick, his boss knows he's a dick, and he doesn't care. He relishes in the diversity of opinion, I guess. Wonderful. But why do I care? They obviously don't. I don't have to buy the game. Why make a video about this subject? Well, for starters, hi, I'm trans. The world is a scary place for trans folks at the moment, whether it's because of this guy and his continuous soap opera fascism, or the general rise in right-wing rhetoric all across the globe, including the very country I live in. Access to medical support is thinned out, violence against transgender people is rising, the fear-mongering, the scapegoating at what seems to be a new high. It's this environment where we need support. We need people to call out BS, bigotry, transphobia for what they are. It requires listening to those involved, living a life not bound by cisgender binaries, and it's tough, it's depressing, and not that it needs to be. I'm proud to be who I am, and I want to help where I can. The depressing bit is that I am not sure how much longer I'll be able to exist as me. This is the context within such posts are made. They're attacks on a people's sheer existence. It's sickening, and while you might think that it doesn't impact you because you're not trans yourself or you don't know anybody that is, I wouldn't be so sure about that. Let's just put it that way. Same goes for horrid statements about systemic violence against people of color, or the ridicule of feminists in a society marred with femicides, patriarchal violence. Making statements about this is not a non-issue. No matter how apathetic Ian Bell might feel about this, your words do have an impact on your surroundings, on the world you live in, whether you want them to or not. The least I can do is acknowledge who's working on Project Motor Racing. I know for a fact that some people who read Joshua's article made the decision not to buy the game based on the information provided, and the best I can do is to further the circle of those in the know, for people to make an educated choice. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that all the streamers previewing the game are aware of this stuff. What I will say is that I hope that in the case they stumble upon this, their reaction won't be one of, meh, I don't care. That said, I've also seen some of that. It seems as though some have got huge blinkers on when it comes to the subject, not even specifically defending Austin, his perspectives or posts, his previous work or future endeavors, but rather playing the old "don't bring politics into this hobby" card. I'm not sure how much explaining I'd have to do to get my point across, but I can try. I don't have a choice. You might have a choice, or at least you think you do, assuming that avoiding controversial topics equates to successfully steering clear of politics. And no, I am not demanding that we turn sim racing discords and racing game forums into third-grade debate clubs. Nonetheless, the absence of such topics, as any choice would be, is inherently political. Politics don't just disappear once you cut the feed of any given media outlet. They're omnipresent. They shape our environment, our view of the world, our entire existence. They're difficult, frustrating, horrendously infuriating in ways I can barely put into words, yet I'd expect fellow adults to acknowledge this and stay wary, especially of those willing to exploit such an aptitude. I do vividly remember stumbling across one specific post on GT Planet regarding this that really broke my heart. I've been a member of this forum for over 15 years, and I'd like to think this is a worthwhile community to be a part of. So in the interest of contributing to the community, I'm going to give those who won't let the whole Ian and Austin thing go a piece of advice. If you live life analyzing every action of yours as if it could be the catalyst, the domino that kicks off the Ruby Goldberg machine of events that leads to a global catastrophe or a dystopian future, That's unhealthy. No human being can carry that kind of responsibility on their shoulders without breaking down eventually, certainly not on a regular basis. I'm not here to tell you to buy the game or not to buy it. That's your money. You do what you want with it. What I'm here to tell you is that the success or failure of this game is not likely to be what a new world order is riding on. Being completely apathetic to what's going on around the world is not a good way to live, but getting to a point where you start seeing people who are buying a racing game as potential extremist sympathizers is also not a good way to live. And it's a sign that you need to step back and stop overthinking. In short, don't bury your head in the sand and pretend nothing's happening, but also don't go around making mountains out of molehills. If you avoid both of these, you'll be alert to take action when it really can't make a difference, but also won't let the fear of what could be consume you and take away basic joys from your life. Hope that sincerely helps. No, it doesn't. Sorry, chaps. It's not a case where I believe people buying this game want to support views expressed by Ogonoski or Bell. Then again, that's not what I'm asking here. You know, there's this old joke of there being two genders, male and political, two races, white and political, two sexualities, straight and political. Those who stray from what is perceived to be the norm are to be acknowledged as a challenge to the status quo and, therefore, political. Of course, that's bullshit. Your actions are political whether you want them to be. It doesn't matter. Sorry. Whether you're okay with somebody being part of your circle who doesn't want me to exist is political. But I know what some of you might be thinking. Yes, that guy sounds like a dick. I understand why you feel uncomfortable buying this game and why you'd wish for others to do the same. But do we need to call him, you know, a Yahtzee? Isn't that a bit harsh? See, this is the part of the video I was a bit scared about. Because how do I prove that somebody is one? Do they need to walk around raising Hitler salutes, wearing swastikas? There's always this absurd level of plausible deniability. In the case of Mr. Ogonoski, you could paint the picture of a dickbag who just likes trolling, but isn't really a fascio. The thing is, whether he's just doing it for the memes, doesn't really matter, at least not in terms of effect. Down below, you'll find a brilliant video essay by Ian Danskin as part of his alt-right playbook series. The card says Moops.
I'm sorry, the card says Moops.
To summarize his theses, current alt-right trolling culture thrives on contradiction and the aforementioned deniability, even when arguing with 100% conviction.
They learn the lingua franca of performative irony. Say what you mean in such a way that people who disagree think you're kidding, and people who agree think you're serious. People who don't know what they believe, but clearly have some fascist leanings, don't need to be convinced of Nazi rhetoric. They just need to be submerged in it and encouraged to hate liberals. They'll make their way right on their own. Folks start using extremist rhetoric because it wins arguments with SJWs, usually because that's the moment the SJW decides it's not fruitful and possibly unsafe talking to you. And this creates the appearance that if it keeps winning arguments, there must be something to it. The far right literally has handbooks on how to do this.
Furthermore, we could talk about the usage of dog whistles to share horrendously awful stuff in plain sight without being recognized by a large part of the population or even the modern-day liberal media apparatus. Thanks for Chan. As far as I'm concerned, I understand that some might feel the assessment to be harsh on the surface. Yet, considering the climate we find ourselves in, the challenges we're faced with, the rise of alt-right parties and groups all across society, their ideology seeped into misogyny, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, racism, transphobia. What more proof do you need? Like Charlie Chaplin walking into frame, or the guy from epic rap battles of history? I'm not a judge, this isn't the public court of racing games. However, I do want to speak up and call a spade, well, a spade. Now, more so than ever, it is important to call people for what they are. If we're scared to do so because of potential repercussions or being too harsh, it's not gonna result in fascists suddenly finding a big balloon of love in their stomachs. All it does is feed a narrative of normalizing their perspectives in a public discourse. Perspectives such as, well, trans people shouldn't exist, feminism is awful, systemic oppression of people of color is a myth, and such. I can't tell you what to do. All I can do is provide information both in this video and down in the description. As for me, I wouldn't buy PMR. There are many other cool things you can do with 60 quid. Wait, 60 quid? Like supporting Palestinians in times of genocide, helping out queer creators, creators of color, aiding your local community, financing independent journalism. If we're to stay in the realm of racing games, you could go for AMS2, offering a similar experience in terms of endurance nostalgia, or go back to classics like GTR 2, Race 07, or the PlayStation 2 Le Mans game. I'm not a journalist. I wish I wasn't to be the one to talk about this on YouTube, but not talking about it would have felt awful and horribly misguided. To reference the article one more time, as Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.